We said it was going to march across the state. I've also made the point it was going to march across the state. We said it was going to march across the state. I've also made the point to my colleagues on every phone call I do with the other governors, the other officials. I say it's going to march across the country. It is false comfort to say, well, we are a rural community. We don't have the density of New York City. That is a false comfort. You have counties in New York State where you have more cows than people. New York State, don't think of just New York City. Upstate New York is a rural community. And you see that it's not just urban areas, it's suburban areas. That's Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk, comparable to suburban communities all across this country. And we have rural communities that are comparable to rural communities all across this country. In many ways, New York State is a microcosm of the United States. And that's why I believe it's going to be illustrative for the rest of this nation as to what's going to happen. Current hospitalizations, as I said, 92,000 tested positive, 13,000 currently hospitalized, that's up 1,100. 3,000 ICU patients, that's up 300. 7,400 patients discharged, that's up 1,292. That's good news. Number of people going to the hospital is going up. Number of people coming out of the hospital is going up. Number of deaths up to 2,373, up from 1941. Looking for a trend line. The trend line is still basically up. Total new hospitalizations. Trend line of ICU admissions is still up. Certainly a couple of small deviations, but the line is up. Number of intubations is up, but if you want to take an optimistic view, you could start to see a plateauing in the number of intubations, but the statisticians tell me that's an optimistic view. Number of daily discharged is going way up. That's people going in, people going out. Challenge is still at the apex. That's what this has been all about for every system in this country now. Everyone is basically waging the same battle. Different time frames, different numbers, different percentages, but it's the same battle. When you hit the apex, which is the highest rate of infection, highest number of people coming into the hospital system, can you handle that number? Can you handle the height of the impact on the hospital system, which is at the apex of the curve? We call that the battle of the mountaintop. At least I call it the battle of the mountaintop. Questions people keep asking, which are the right questions. Well, when is the apex? It depends on what model you use, what model you follow. We follow all the models. It's anywhere from 7 to 21 to 30 days, depending on what model you look at. Well, how can you have that variable, 7 to 30 days? It depends on how that model rates how effective social distancing is, right? The variable is the models that think social distancing is going to be more effective at slowing the rate have a longer time frame for the apex. Those models that discount the social distancing, they have a shorter time frame for the apex. It makes it difficult to plan, frankly, because 7 to 30 days is a long window. And we are literally planning on a day-to-day basis, deploying assets on a day-to-day basis. We believe it is closer to the shorter end of the range with our in-house people looking at the professional modeling that's being done. How many beds will you need at the apex? Between 70 and 110,000. Again, that is a broad range. Again, that's one of the frustrations trying to plan for this. Right now we have 53,000 statewide. We have only 36,000 downstate. Remember that, and this is primarily a downstate issue. So by any estimate, we don't have the number of beds, but again, we've taken extraordinary measures. Every hospital by mandate has to add a 50% increase, and they have all done that. We're setting up extra facilities, which we've been talking about. We've been shifting patients from downstate hospitals to upstate hospitals, and that is continuing. When does this end? You have projection models that have us hitting the apex, coming down from the apex. Models vary at how quickly you come down from the apex, but they all basically say you come down from the apex quickly. And then some models have it flattening out, but flattening out for a period of time. Models have it flattening out and continuing through the summer. How many lives lost? There's only one model that we look at that has the number of projected deaths, which is the IHME model, which is funded by the Gates Foundation, and we thank the Gates Foundation for the national service that they've done. But that is the model that suggests approximately 93,000 deaths across the country. That's the model that I believe Dr. Fauci was referring to when he said about 100,000 deaths. By that, New York would be about 16,000 deaths by that model. When we're doing this planning and we're doing our deployment, the theory is the chain is only as strong as the weakest link, right? So that's true for the hospital system. We have about, give or take, 180 hospitals that we are focusing on here in the state. The hospitals that will have the greatest issue will be those hospitals that are usually the most stressed in normal circumstances, right? So if the hospitals before this were under stress, you then add this crisis on top of that, those are the hospitals that one would expect to see struggling first. That's also true for the entire hospital system. You know, we talk about beds, we talk about staff, we talk about supplies, but the truth is you need all three of those things to provide any care. A bed without staff doesn't do anything. A bed and staff without supplies doesn't do anything. So you need all three of those components to work to have a situation where someone can actually get care. In terms of beds, those are the easiest to find, and we're constructing additional facilities. We're now going to start at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, obviously in Brooklyn, New York City. It's expected to open this week, 750 beds. We're taking a Office of Mental Health facility in Staten Island and converting it to a COVID-only hospital. So on beds, we are in relatively good shape because a bed is a bed, right? A bed is a question of a structure. Push comes to shove. We can acquire dorms, we can acquire hotels, we can acquire physical structures with beds in them. Of those three components, beds, staff, supplies, I personally am least worried about bed capacity. We have 2,500 beds at Javits. We have 1,000 beds on the naval ship Comfort. Beds we can find. Not easy, but we can find them. The harder components are the staff and the supplies, which is what we've been talking about. On the staff, we're continuing to shift staff from the upstate hospitals that are less impacted to downstate hospitals. We've requested out-of-state healthcare workers. God bless America. 21,000 people have volunteered from out of state to come into New York State.
God bless them.
I thank them. I thank their patriotism.
Absolutely.
I thank their dedication and passion to their mission of public health.
Absolutely.
These are beautiful, generous people, and New Yorkers will return the favor. New Yorkers will return the favor. This is going to affect every place in this country. We are, in some ways, the first major encounter. We're learning, we'll get the experience, and we will return the favor. When your community needs help, New Yorkers will be there.
Absolutely.
And you have my personal word on that. And it's also the New York tradition. When there's been a hurricane or there's been a flood or Hurricane Katrina, New Yorkers are the first ones in their cars to go anywhere in this nation that needs help. And I will be the first one in my car to go wherever this nation needs help as soon as we get past this. I will never forget how people across this country came to the aid of New Yorkers when they needed it. And I deeply appreciate it. We have 85,000 volunteers now in total, which are being deployed to the hospitals so they can find staff that works for them. Supplies are an ongoing challenge. The PPE is an ongoing challenge, the gowns, the gloves, and the ventilators. First of all, we have for the first time ever a hospital-by-hospital survey that will be done on a nightly basis of exactly what they have. As I said, we're coordinating the healthcare system in a way it's never been coordinated before, rather than having all these regional systems and public systems, private systems, et cetera. We have a central stockpile. We are asking all the hospitals to contribute what they have to that central stockpile, and then we will disperse on a need basis. You know, some hospitals have more supplies than they're using. We're saying, don't hoard supplies. Let's put all the supplies in a central stockpile, and then we will draw down from the central stockpile. And we will monitor this literally on a daily basis. I'm also asking on supplies. I don't have a New York Defense Production Act, right? The governor can't say to a company, we need you to manufacture this. But I ask businesses just to think about the situation we're in and a possible opportunity. It is the cruelest irony that this nation is now dependent on China for production of many of these products. Many of these products in the normal marketplace were being produced in China. And now you have everyone shopping China for PPE, gowns, ventilators. The gowns, the gloves are not complicated components to manufacture. The gowns are Tyvek or paper material. If you are a manufacturer who can convert to make these products and make them quickly, they are not complicated products. The FDA lists the specifications for these products on their website. If you have the capacity to make these products, we will purchase them, and we will pay a premium, and we will pay to convert or transition your manufacturing facility to a facility that can do this. But we need it like now. You know, we're not talking about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. We need these materials now. That's the stress. I understand that. But if you are in the garment manufacturing business, if you have machinery that can cut a pattern, you know, a coverall, you're not making a fashion-forward fitted garment, right? These are relatively straightforward components. So if you can do it, it's a business opportunity, it is a state need, it's a national need. Please contact us. We'll work with you. We'll work with you quickly. There'll be no bureaucracy, no red tape, and we'll finance. We're not asking for a favor from these businesses. We'll finance what you need in terms of transitioning, and we'll buy the product, and I will pay a premium because we need it. And this is a number for the Empire State Development Corporation, which is handling this task. In terms of ventilators, we released 400 ventilators last night to the New York City Health and Hospital Corporation. We released 200 to Long Island and Westchester. As I said, you see that those growing numbers in Nassau and Suffolk, and that is starting to stress that healthcare system. So we released those ventilators.
Mission essential personnel, so that if you put the protocols in place, they can still bend metal and make products during the midst of this crisis.
Mr. Secretary, just a quick question on the Navy, actually, and this the sailors in Guam who are being quarantined off of the USS Theodore Roosevelt. How much are protocols being shared between branches, given that it's affecting so many of them?
Secretary Esper convenes updates with all of the senior leaders of the services, the Office of Secretary of Defense, as well as combatant commanders. We had a 2-hour meeting this morning. We did talk about the Teddy Roosevelt and others, and we are looking at precisely to your point about protocols to put in place with additional testing capabilities, so we create these safety bubbles and be able to move personnel in larger groups to get them from point A to B safely, and as well as looking at conceptually how will we train under these strained conditions and the months ahead of us.
Yeah, and along those lines, Secretary McCarthy, I mean, we do have foes that are looking to take advantage of the country's focus on coronavirus efforts right now. Yesterday alone, President Trump warning Iran against a potential sneak attack on American troops, also deploying more military forces to the Caribbean to combat drug cartels and some of the, I guess, increased activity that's happening there. How is the Army and the Pentagon more broadly balancing response efforts, keeping personnel safe, and then, of course, maintaining operational readiness in the midst of some of these threats?
Over half of our brigade combat teams are at the highest levels of readiness. So we are ready to fight tonight to anybody that challenges the United States of America. We have over 191,000 people deployed worldwide in over 140 countries. We've moved testing capability forward to Afghanistan and Iraq in particular, where units are in combat operations. So we have made adjustments to support units that are in contact, as well as putting certain units in our immediate response force to a higher alert posture to put a bubble around them to ensure they can be ready to go, just like you saw the 82nd Airborne on New Year's Eve deploy and have boots on the ground within 18 hours. So times are challenging for us, but we are ready to take on any fight anywhere on this earth.
Secretary, to the extent that you can you give us an update on the Army supply of tests of protective...
And I want to weigh in on what he just said right there. You know, I realize whenever you're looking at all these smaller little countries, and the large ones too as well, who wants to be the top dog? Who wants to be the leader on top of the hill? In my lifetime, at 59 years old, I just turned 59, I have never seen so many different countries, so many different people, in so many different places that wanted to bring harm and hurt and attack us all at the same time. Which, once more, is going back into the Bible, where the Bible talks about that in the last days, Satan will rise up in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. And it doesn't matter if it's in a little country like Honduras, or if it's in some other country that's large or some other country that's small like Iran or North Korea, we've got all these different entities that want to merge out of the blue for really no reason towards challenging the American United States military. And not only are they challenging us, but now they're attacking the citizens of this country, similar towards what happened in 9/11. You know, if you look at what happened during World War II and World War I, if you look at what happened even during the Korean War and the Vietnam War, even Desert Storm, people was civilized in not wanting to go after common everyday citizens that didn't have nothing to do with any kind of national defense. That is changing, folks. We are under siege in some form or fashion. If we're not under siege by a bunch of illegal immigrants that wants to climb over the fences and bring their drugs and their contamination over here from the southern border, we are under siege with a microscopic viral germ. We're under siege pertaining to a country wanting to nuke another country pertaining to North Korea. We're under siege towards the Saudis wanting to go to war with the Russians, towards the oil tycoons, towards bringing the prices of oil down so low that it basically causes Shell and Exxon and Valdez and all our other oil manufacturers here in the United States to shut down and to lay off all their people. Or we're under war in other areas like Iran, pertaining to what's going on over there in the Middle East. I have never, ever seen the likes of all the roaches that has decided to come out all at once. And they're not going to be satisfied until we make an example out of some of them. I've already done looked through the smoke screen. They don't want peace. If they wanted peace, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing to us. They don't want peace. Just like a group of people around here in Northwest Tennessee. They didn't want peace. If they truly wanted peace, they would have got in behind the Windmill Ministries ministry. They didn't want peace. They played games. They thought that this was a joke. Well, now all of a sudden it's not a joke, is it? Now all of a sudden we got death knocking on our back door. And it's not just coming in the form of a drive-by or a crazy person that wants to do bodily harm to us as far as taking out a semi-automatic AK-47 and shoot into a crowd of people or kill a bunch of children or kill a bunch of people while they're in worship service. Now it's coming in every form and fashion, including biological warfare. This is striking a tone directly into the Word of God. Towards in the last days, perilous times will come. Perilous times, dangerous times, to the point that now you don't know who to trust or what to trust. I have never seen the world tipped upside down on its axis the way that I have today at the age of 59. You know, during World War II, they attacked Pearl Harbor. You know why they attacked Pearl Harbor? Because Pearl Harbor was a military installation base. At least they had the decency of one military installation base attacking another military installation base. It ain't that way no more. They're attacking civilians. They're attacking we the people. And until our military installation bases over here in America makes an example out of 2 or 3 of these people, it doesn't matter if it's Iran, it doesn't matter if it's North Korea, it doesn't matter if it's somebody else. Until we make an example out of them, they're going to continue to sit back and badger, pick and poke, make fun, and see how far that they can go with their provocative actions towards trying to provoke us into a war, provoke us into a confrontation. And I kind of knew that whenever I first got engaged in all this biblical Bible stuff pertaining to seeing prophecy unveil itself the way that it was supposed to have unveiled itself even years ago. But I had no earthly idea that I was going to have to be attacked by the people that live in my own country, in my own state, and in my own county. God forbid. I never would have thought that I would have had to have endured this since I've come back here in 2014. It actually began way before 2014. It began 30 plus years ago. I never would have thought this. But this has turned out to be a very, very rude, sad awakening for the true Christian society. The true Christian society of the bride of Christ that is under siege right now. Literally under siege. And if we're not under siege in one way, we're under siege in another. I've never, ever seen society turn so sour against the anti-Semitism that's happening throughout this planet right now. And believe it or not, I hate to say it, but if you are a true born-again believing, God-fearing Christian that believes in the teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ, you just as well walk around with a big red bullseye on the back. In a lot of cases, in certain cases. Because it's as if all these roaches has come out at once. All these demons have come out at once. And if we do not unify as a Christian society, here not only in America but throughout the planet, we as a Christian society is doomed. And it's not just the Muslims. It's not just the Hindus. It's not just the people that practice voodoo down in Louisiana. It's not just the Wiccans. It's not just the ancient ones. It's not just the Taliban or ISIS or North Korea or Iran or Iraq. It's all of them. It's every stinking one of them that has decided to step up to the plate and challenge the Christian America society in some form or fashion. And it just literally brings chills to my spine to think that it is nothing more than biblical Bible prophecy coming true, just as Christ said that in the last days that they will dig a trench around us to the point that we will be entrapped on every side. On every side. But thank God, God is on our side, and thank God that we know who has won battle after battle after battle, regardless whether it was the battles in the Old Testament or the battles in the New Testament. And thank God we know that we are on the winning side, and we may have to get some blood on us to be able to prove our point to some of these cruel, indifferent, demonic forces that are coming against us. But the bottom line is God's people will prevail. God's children will prevail. The meek will prevail. The meek will inherit this earth. For Christ said that every knee would bow and that every tongue would profess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And if they're not willing to do it willfully, they'll do it involuntarily. If they're not willing to do it in this lifetime, they'll do it in the lifetime to come. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in one one perspective, even if I was to catch a horrible, horrible disease to the point of death, or they was to break in on top of me and kill me, because I know I'm going to be on the winning team, on the winning side. And I'm not going to just allow for them to come out here and take over my property. There's nobody going to come out here and take over this property. Not in me sit back and let them do it. If they do it, it's only going to be because they restrain me, or they entrap me, or they imprison me to the point that I don't have no choice in the matter. In other words, if I go down, I'm going to go down fighting. And it doesn't matter if I'm going down fighting on a hospital bed, either having a respirator or not having a respirator, or if I go down on the battlefield. If I go down, I'm going down fighting. And that's the way every Christian here up into America and up onto the world has to look at it. If you go down, you're going to go down fighting. Because if we let them, they're going to take over. They are not the king of the mountain. The Christian society has not been taken out of this planet yet. And because of it, it says in the Bible to let the wheat grow with the tares. Let the goats grow with the sheep until time of harvest. And then after the time of harvest, that's whenever the demonic, that's whenever the wicked, that's whenever the crazies can take over. But until then, it's going to be orderly in one form or fashion, even if God himself has to come down here in a streak of lightning, or in the center of a volcano, or in the middle of a earthquake, or whatever, towards humbling people and bringing them to their knees. We, as a Christian society, has to stand up, even at the point of getting blood on our own hands. It has reached that point, to the point that whatever that a person believes in, he or she, that if it's not worthwhile a dying for, it's not going to be worthwhile a living for. You have to remember that. We have been preaching that now from the Windmill Ministries here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, going on 30 plus years. You have to take these things in full accord towards what we're talking about. Because we are living in the last days. We are living in perilous times. So please, those that get a hold of this message, share it with others. And we ask for your support as far as prayer and keeping us in your hearts. Thank you for allowing us for being part of your lives in these last day struggles towards the meek inheriting the earth. Good luck to all of us, and once more, shalom.